All right, welcome to my 17th live stream. I'm Joshua Kemble, been a freelance illustrator for over 15 years and an art director for over 6. And I also, when I'm not art directing and doing graphic design and illustration for clients or for work, basically I am also a cartoonist. I'm a Xeric award-winning cartoonist. I got like the Xeric grant years ago for my first comic book Numb, and then my first officially published graphic novel. This is actually my second completed graphic novel, but my first published one was released last month, and this is book 1. It is a confessional graphic memoir that grapples with questions of faith, mental illness, depravity, and ultimately redemption in a fallen world. And it's hand lettered, hand inked. Put a lot of time into this. It took about 5 years to complete from start to finish. And yeah, so you can pick this up on Amazon if you're curious what I'm working on. This is book 1, and what I'm going to be working on this stream is book 2. So if you've been following the streams so far, you probably already know that. But if you want to have a window into like what I'm working on, that'll give you an idea because it's the first book. And also it'll help me out. Also, if you want to know when these streams are about to go live, just hit subscribe, hit that bell, and it'll give you a notification that when we're about to go live, because I'm pretty much going to be streaming when I work on these pages, and that should be quite frequently at really odd hours. So, all right. So yesterday's stream, I worked on page 89, and now I'm doing thumbnails for page 90. So what you're seeing here are page 89's thumbnails. I usually copy the previous page over just so that I don't have to reinvent the wheel, that I basically can see the previous thumbnails that I worked from, that I'm working from for the next page, so that like when it comes to different sequential images, that it's consistent. So like if my character is holding a coffee mug in their left hand, then I don't forget that it's in their left hand, and then the next panel like draw it in the right, have a flying coffee mug, that kind of thing. So anyhow, I am going to be mapping out page 90. These are roughs and thumbnails, so they're pretty much like a tighter version of a thumbnail sketch that'll give me a map for my final execution, allow me to know what I need to gather photo reference for, what my lighting is going to be like when I draw the final pages, and also what sort of text layout I need to make for my pages. I'm trying to do this a little differently than last time. The last time I did the book, I did a full script, which I have, but then from the script I'd do it in sections. So I'd like thumbnail a page, and then I'd go to like finally executing the type on the page, and then from there, like the type and the layout, and from there I do my pencils after gathering like photo reference and stuff like that. And then from pencils I'd go to hand inking and hand lettering everything. I'm doing it a little differently this time because I think it'll go faster. So I'm trying to do the thumbnails for the entire book, and then I'm going to do a pass and do the panel borders and type in Adobe Illustrator for the entire book. And then from there, try to gather photo reference and get all that prepped for the entire book. And then do pencils for the entire book and inks for the entire book. In theory, I think this will speed up the process, but you know, when you're working on 120 pages of artwork, it's hard to know sometimes. So I'm hoping that'll help. All right, so here we go. Yesterday I got my stream crashed by Jim Lujan and Corey Kerr, and I had forgotten to drink from this lovely mug, which is a Swizzle Stick Army deep cut for Jim Lujan. Like he has these fake animated bands, and I got a mug of my favorite of his fake animated bands. All right, here we go. And now I'm going to basically go from my script, which I have kind of broken down in a convenient way so that I don't lose track of where I'm at. And from my script, I'm going to try to thumbnail hopefully the entire page for the next page, trying to hit the mark of doing a fully thumbnailed page a day. And it's been pretty hectic and interesting. Oh, I forgot to mention too, I'm also, because I'm working on these daily, I decided to go ahead and call it the 100 Days of Making Comics 37 days ago. So this is day 37 of the 100 Days of Making Comics challenge, where my friend Kevin Cross started it. But basically, you're supposed to spend at least 30 minutes a day on your comic or your personal project. And the thinking behind that is if you spend 30 minutes a day, you'll eventually build a habit and end up kind of getting more done on your art than if you wait for some magic window of time to show up so you can work on your stuff. I'm going to be putting in more than that, like probably a couple hours. And I'm doing it coinciding with my buddy Scott Cirkland, who also started the challenge on the same day. We both started it on the 1st. So here we go, and let's see what happens. So the last panel was this laughing panel, and I think that I actually it's this sequence where there's like kind of this surreal scene where we have the characters like learning how to use a gun. They're at a friend's house about to borrow a gun, and their friend walks them through different gun safety ideas, and then basically from there, I'm now outside having a cigarette with a friend, kind of talking about it. So, and I want this to repeat. I also want to say I don't really endorse gun use, and I for sure don't endorse smoking either. It's a bad habit that I picked up at a young age. And yeah. Anyhow, so here we go. But this is a slice of life comic, and that means showing stuff that good, bad, or ugly is true to life. So, okay, here we go. I am copying that panel, and then I'm going to basically, I think I'm going to use that for the first panel here. I also know it's going to say something up here, so I'm going to write that out. There's something to be said for gallows humor. So it's been a pretty interesting day. My son is like super into Minecraft lately, and today was the first day. I guess there's a couple modes. I'm streaming on Twitch, so maybe if anyone tunes in of the like 4 people who watch this on Twitch, they can let me know what those modes are called, because I'm kind of forgetting. But one is like a safe mode. See, my wife is chiming in. My wife is also working on her kids' books in the background as well. She's a talented children's book illustrator. You can find her work looking for My S. Kemble on Amazon. So after you've bought 2 stories, pick up a couple books for your kids. Don't pick up 2 stories for your kids. It's not really a kid-friendly book. So she said it's called creative mode. So anyhow, he went outside of creative mode, which is like the safe mode where your character can't die or whatever. And he went into survival mode for the first time today. And it was kind of cute. He was like really excited about it. And I was kind of proud of him too, because he took a risk, and it's kind of fun to see him be brave about something for a second. So, yeah, so that was one interesting event today. The other interesting event was I'm making progress on. I mean, this is the most boring topic in the world, but still, I'll bring it up. We have this monstrous backyard, and for the last year or so, I've had this ongoing project of trying to get the yard de-weeded, and we live in an area where weeds grow like insanely quickly. And we've never really fully de-weeded the yard, like in the way, unfortunately, where you have to like pull out the weeds by the roots, and it's actually kind of a headache to do, and it really hurts your wrists and all sorts of stuff.
When we bought the house, there was like no backyard. It was not even. It's just a dirt yard, you know. So it's not like.
But anyhow, so I have, yeah, my wife rightly points out it's like there really is nothing in our backyard except weeds and dirt. So anyhow, the project is to try to get rid of all the weeds, and then eventually like start working on our yard so that we can have like a nice backyard that we can hang out in, and Ben can have like a backyard he can play in, and we can also have a backyard that doesn't like hurt our dogs, because these weeds make like these crazy like thorns that kind of come from them. I don't even know what they're called. It's like a specific kind of burr that like has extra spikes on it, so it's not like your typical weed. And it'll get like kind of attached to the dogs and hurt them. So like we want to get rid of it. So anyhow, we're getting closer and closer to finished, but as I'm getting further and further into this corner of the house, there's these particular weeds that have grown, I think because it's close to our, we have a swamp cooler because we live in the desert, and it's a nice way to cool your house without the crazy expense of like a air conditioner. But I think because of that, there's water slightly near there, because anybody who's owned a swamp cooler, you know, it's like it leaks a little bit of water. Even the best like sealed swamp cooler is eventually going to leak water. And so because of that, there's a lot of water in that area. So I think these particular weeds have like grown really deep into the soil. And so I was feeling really optimistic when I started weeding today, and then I realized like it's going to take like 4 times as long in this little tiny corner of the yard, just because of how like rooted the weeds are. So you have to like get in there and like you pull one weed root, and it's like connected to like 5 other roots, and there's like these vine style weeds that are kind of growing all over the place there. So anyhow, needless to say, I spent a couple hours out there weeding that area, and then a couple hours on a project that I cannot reveal yet, but I'm pretty happy with the results. And it's a project I'm going to hand ink, and kind of similar to the poster I made for Gallery 1988 a while ago. I made a poster for Monty Python. It's like in the same style, like, and I can't talk much about it, but I will say it's going to be hand lettered, hand inked, and it was important for me today to get the pencils done, because it's kind of time sensitive. And so I got that done, and I'm pretty happy with how they came out. And that's good news because unfortunately, because it's time sensitive, like if they weren't good, I would have just had to go with it. So it's always it's always fun when you're on a deadline and you kind of confidently go forward and you don't botch it, like it actually looks good. So so there's that. And that was pretty much my day. I mean, read to my kid, probably slept a little too much because of the late night working on these thumbnails. And another thing I'm kind of hoping out of this tonight is that I can get these thumbnails done a little bit quicker because it's about 11 right now. So if I can get these done, honestly, even by like 1, it'll reset my clock to be on less of a weird off schedule. So yeah. I did an interview with a local paper that is supposedly going to be coming out on Monday, and I'm pretty excited about that. The only thing that was sad about that interview was the whole time the interviewer was asking me questions, it sounded on like on my phone, and I think it was their phone connection, but it kind of sounded like blah 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 blah, you know? And you're like, could you I can't really understand what you just asked. Oh, blah 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 blah, blah 2 stories. And I was like, so I sort of worked my way through it and tried the best I could to answer. And then I also sent the reporter like kind of an apology to saying like, hey, if you need anything, let me know. Because, you know, when you're promoting a book, like having any press is good. And I definitely don't want that reporter to like, you know, to feel like they can't reach out to me if like there was some stuff that I wasn't very clear about in the interview. But we'll see. So I'm hoping it comes out okay and maybe leads a couple more people to buy 2 stories and check it out. Because I really do think like in this era in time, it's an important story for people to read. Like I actually think like the fact that it's talking pretty openly about mental illness could be really useful to people, because we're all like locked down and confronted with death on a daily basis because of the COVID crisis. And so I think a lot of people who might not have similar struggles to what I've had, you know, like I've struggled with depression for a long time, and you know, the book talks about that and stuff, but I think a lot of people are going to be confronted with some pretty heavy questions they may not be thinking about. That is a gigantic cigarette in this guy's hand. Let me look at that at scale. Well, I guess it works. It's a thumbnail. Just from this angle, it looked like I was drawing like a giant joint or something in his hand. But anyhow, yeah. So I think it could be a valuable book for people to read for that reason, and hopefully entertaining too. But yeah, so that happened this morning as well. Okay. I think I'm gonna try to do this is going to be interesting too, because this is a long conversation sequence, and I don't mind this angle. That was good for a transition, but I think I want to go back to like the straight in front of the house angle. But I'm also wondering if that would be okay, well, let me get some of the type in here, and maybe that can help me set it up. Actually, I think that could be really cool. This might be a wide, long one because it's a lot of type. So here we go. And okay, this is going to say, I know I have this all nicely set up so that there we go. I folded it so it's kind of like a place card so I don't have to constantly find it. I know. Add a name. I don't honestly. So this is going to get into like the first book sort of deals with sort of the erosion of my faith and my mental health and kind of trust in humanity. And then the second book deals with sort of a little bit of an explanation as to how we got to Portland, Oregon, how my like all these traumatic events that sort of set the stage for a mental breakdown, and then finding faith and sort of gaining faith in Christianity and like sort of what that means. And so right here, this is actually taking place before the parts of the first story that take place in Portland. And so this is like before we moved to Portland, and this whole sequence, particularly the set of dialogue I'm writing, is explaining why we moved to Portland. One of the reasons we moved to Portland, other than just being really enamored with Portland as a city at the time. So this is going to say, which by the way, the first book takes place heavily in Portland. Okay, I mean, can't. Oh, I really don't know why. Maybe there's a stuck key or something on my keyboard, but I have noticed that it seems like Photoshop kind of glitches out and does the rotate tool for no reason sometimes. And I find that really strange. And actually, in this dialogue, I'm talking about the frustration of us not being able to live in safer neighborhoods. Because we didn't have a ton of money, but then having to live near LA because you're an artist, which I actually think is a pretty common frustration for artists in Los Angeles and in California. Because although we're fortunate, to be out of that situation and living in a relatively safe neighborhood now, but at the time that was a huge frustration. and I think that made Portland at the time. I've heard since that cost of living has gone up quite significantly there. But when we first moved there, like the difference between like what you could get in California as opposed to what you could get in Portland for like rent or whatever was pretty substantial. Okay, but because I'm wondering how much of this I think it can go a little bit further. Okay, that is a crazy amount of type. I'm going to stop it there. It actually goes further, but I want to break it up a little bit so it's not just all type. I mean, this is, after all, a graphic novel, not a novel. Okay, so here we go. Got to figure out how I want to position this. And I think it might actually be cool to have I think this might actually be like a sequence where it's like from kind of below. That might be a bad call, but I think that might actually make sense. Hmm. Actually, I think that is an interesting change of perspective that might work for this, but I just have to kind of work it out a little bit more. Yep. It's a bad location for the tail. Cool. So I have my rough structure here. There's like a strange closet thing over here too. Okay. So I'm trying to kind of map this out a little bit. It's a thumbnail, so it doesn't need to be perfect. But yeah, I actually think that might work for an angle. And then we're going to have that sort of worked out. Yep. And let me see. I actually think that'll work really well. The hand here. Very exaggerated pose, but I think it'll sort of work. Yep. This is going to have the t-shirt here. And once again, a lot of the times with thumbnails, what you're doing is just kind of working it out, like how you're going to map it out. It was kind of fun to have a break from sequential work for a second today. It's weird. I love sequential art, but I also spent a really good chunk of my life like learning how to do illustration just in general. And so sometimes it is like a relief when, like, as much as I love working sequentially, it's a relief sometimes when you like have gotten so used to working sequentially that you're like, oh, I get to do like one image. Like, I don't need to worry about redrawing these characters. Like, I can just draw them once, and once is good enough. Like, it's kind of a I don't know. For me, it was a little fun to have a moment like that today. But I'm also knee deep in this. I mean, I've been doing this for probably close to 90 days now, so it makes sense. It's like you draw the same thing, same characters for 90 days, and yeah. And I'm sure it's going to be like much longer than 90 days to finish this. So, but I am excited because I'm well over the halfway point, and that's a big deal. The halfway point of the thumbnails, not the halfway point of the book, but hey, I'll take it. You got to kind of enjoy the little victories. I remember that being a piece of advice given to me when I first went into art directing. I had an old art director at an education company I used to work for. So I emailed and I was like, how do you do art directing? Because I didn't really know when I was starting my job as an art director. Like, I had a rough idea, but it was, new territory, new terrain. And that was his biggest piece of advice, was like, you get very tiny victories, treat your team well, and enjoy the little victories. And that's basically all you can do. Which is funny because I think he was right. But I feel like comics are kind of like one of those things where they're very labor intensive, and especially if you're doing like written and illustrated comics, like comics where you're doing the full thing, like you don't have a team on it. Yeah, you got to enjoy those little victories. So you finished a panel, yay, celebrate. You finished a page, celebrate, because it's a long haul thing. This is a very strange angle to draw. at, and I'm approximating it, and hopefully the approximation works. But yeah, it is funny how like sometimes it just feels like a total break where you're like, all I have to do is a single illustration. It's actually one of the reasons when, like people, if somebody asks me for advice and they're looking to become a professional illustrator or cartoonist, um, I usually recommend they do cartooning on their own and then go into illustration, because illustration's just it's not necessarily like a better field. Like I love comics, I love cartooning, and I think cartoonists are some of the best artists in the world. But when it comes to just like time put in and how it's valued by the industry, I think if you can pull off kind of doing illustration and then do comics outside of that, like that are your own IPs, like I think that might be, at least to me, that seems like where it's at for. But I also, the older I get, the more I realize like whatever hustle you can manage to do and manage to make a living as an artist doing, do that. Because it's every day you're doing art professionally. Congratulations, you have cheated the system. We're not meant to do this stuff. Somehow we're doing it. I have a dog who's snoring or something really hard.
It's scratch snoring.
It's pretty funny. It's cute. Funny to hear.
Maybe a teeny tiny chihuahua.
So we have a Chihuahua that's my sister-in-law's, who's sort of living with us. And he's like this feisty, angry little dude. But he's really cute, and right now is snoring. But he also has a tendency to like get really mad and growl and bark. But he's also super cute, so I don't mind him. Let's see here. Getting this through. We're going to kind of make this. And the nice thing about. Okay, I'm going to do a little trick after this too. Kind of break up the monotony of this panel. Pretty happy with how it's coming out though. All right, cool. So we're gonna have this door here. Door is gonna be closed now. Sketch in. I think this door actually has like a molding on the front too. So I'm gonna go ahead and insert that just in case. So as like at a thumbnail scale. It doesn't need to be perfect or clean. And then there's this like tinier closet / door thing over here. Okay. So now I'm going to put in my map of sort of mapping the values of this, and we'll be about a third of the way through by the time this is done, which is pretty exciting. Just kind of working out the lighting. And let's see here. Yep, lighting's getting kind of worked out. Have the door. I think it might be nice to have like a cast shadow a little bit. Let's see if that works. I do like that idea. Maybe like there will be a cast shadow that sort of covers the wall a little bit and makes this a little more dynamic. Okay. So here we go. Got like our light source sort of established. And pretty excited. We're done with the top two panels that are filling up the space up top. So I do like the idea of this having this here too. Because I want to use this real estate for story. It's a catch 22, which is also a very good book. It's been a long time since I've read it, though. Could reread it. I'm actually pretty excited about on Monday, we're doing our first indie review show on our indie review channel on YouTube. Corey Kerr and I believe Scott is joining us as well. Corey is going to be picking the first book we review. But we're going to be going through and auditing different graphic novels, indie comics, a different piece of art that inspired us. Most likely it'll be story related, but for me, I know it'll be mostly indie comics. And then talking about why and what it was that inspired us in that work. And I think that'll be pretty good. I'm pretty excited about it. Okay. So then this one, I actually want to kind of bring us back to a long shot of the, oh. I'm going to kind of bring it back to this long shot view. Of the doorway. Kind of recycle this. This is the advantage of doing thumbnails digitally or pencils digitally, is like if you have a repeated thing, you can just copy and paste, which is really nice. I don't end up doing that in the finals, and that might be a problem. Maybe I'm insane for not doing that on the finals. But I like the idea of like on a final, having it be really clear that you read through everything. I just think that makes for a really cool piece of art. Here is going to be kind of a little bit of a difference. Once again, just thumbnails, not finals. Being really loose. It's a good idea. Can't believe I. Okay, here we go. We got a little bit of the lighting reestablished. I like the idea of having that long shadow. And then I'm going to put in the type. And then we're almost at the hour mark. And on this stream, when I get to the point where I've been streaming for about an hour, that's usually when I take a very brief little break. So it's interesting. It's a Saturday night. It's 11:30, and close, not quite there, but close to halfway through what I need to get done. Okay, so I'm going to put merge down. Okay. Again, little victories. I'm going to enjoy the fact that I'm getting some things done. Not quite all I need to get done, but it'll work. Okay. 2, make money. We have to live in an area that requires more money than I can make. Going. So it's funny, our pug is snoring, and my sister-in-law's chihuahua is snoring, and they're kind of doing it like synchronized. So I hear like pug snores going squirm, and then another going squirm. It's interesting. I don't know if that's picking up on the mic, but it's definitely pretty amazing. Okay, can't keep going through this. Okay, so that's the type I was kind of laying over this, and it's going to be blocked. Oh, don't want to delete the type. I wanted to delete this. Oh, where did the type go? Man, I'm just winning tonight. Okay, here we go. And then this is going to have a tail as well. One thing I love about kind of thumbnailing with type in it is you usually wind up designing your pages more efficiently, because a lot of the time if you don't allot for type, you end up drawing a bunch of stuff you don't actually have to draw. And not only that, you'll end up making compositions where it feels like text was just kind of slapped on. So, okay, there we go. And at this point, I'm going to take it's a little early, but I'm going to take like a very brief break to get a coffee refill. And then hopefully, I'm hoping we'll finish the page. What do you think? Okay, so I think this is enough kind of dynamic changes to make it interesting. I think the next shot is going to be a little bit closer. Okay, I was going to take a break, but let me at least mock this up first. Not the whole thing, just kind of. So I'm going to lay out this panel. All right, cool. There we go. And then I'm going to just block in the type, and that should bring us to the halfway point where I'll take like a little break. So I'm going to say, hey, is that Kawagua? Did I just, Chris? I know it's Kawagua, but I just literally stuttered and was like, Kiwa blah blah. Like, that's the worst thing ever. How's it going, Chris? What happens in this page? You become a vigilante here. I do think that would be hilarious to just give up on the memoir slice of life thing and just suddenly have like it actually be like the origin of a supervillain or a superhero. And I was just talking about that yesterday, actually. That I think was that movie called Magnolia? Was it Magnolia, the one where Nicolas Cage? It wasn't Magnolia.
No, Nicolas Cage is not in that.
The one where Nicolas Cage, it's Charlie Kaufman, and Nicolas Cage like plays twins that like each are screenwriters.
No, that's
I blanked out on it. Plot twist: Batman. I love it. That's true. Actually, what I should do in this panel, I'm gonna just have Batman fly out of nowhere and just punch my character in the face, and then punch all the other characters in the face and just fly away. And people, when we're recovering from being punched in the face, we'll just be like, Batman can't fly. Dun dun dun. Okay. Yeah, and I think I have a block in my head with that film title because I blanked out on it yesterday and was told the title.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and then I've since forgotten it. I think it's one of those. I don't know if yeah. What you doing, Chris? Are you working on anything? Anything cool? Let's see. Oh, that's not a. This isn't a word panel. Chris Kawagua is one of the best illustrators I know. So if anyone is watching this and they like my stuff and they haven't checked out Chris's work, you should go check it out. Chris Kawagua. It is good. I wonder, are you still working on that the holster thing that you were building? That actually sounds pretty cool. What is this? Interesting. Okay. I got a message that I'm going to have to pay attention to in a second. Oh, yeah, it has been a while since you've updated your website. It's tough though. Like nowadays, I don't even know if people are really frequently going to websites. I mean, I have seen traffic online, but I'm not sure what all that means anymore. Like it gets plenty of visits, but I don't know what that's doing, you know? Um, but I do think, Chris, just for me, you should update your stuff on there because it would be cool to see. It's fairly up to date though. It has some of the pretty awesome stuff you'd done. All right, let's see. I think you can also check out Kitten Rivet, which is Chris and Christina's his wife Christina, and him have a really cool uh, little company going that does cats and robots. Thus, Kitten Rivet. Oh, nice. Chris finished his holster and learned how to leatherwork an ammo pouch. Oh wow. Okay, are you doing the full one with like the where the bullets would go around the um that that sounds kind of cool. All right, so let's see here. I wonder if I should just real quick work out this part because it shouldn't be too bad. Yep, it won't be too bad. Okay. I was talking about potentially taking a brief break, but I will hold off because I'm just going to work out this part first. So is that what you're working on tonight? Is the bullet belt? Sounds kind of awesome. Chris is always working on these pretty amazing projects. Some of them are like kind of cosplay type projects, but they're really cool and like legit and creative and fun. And it's just like it's just neat to see. Chris is one of those dudes who can kind of figure out a lot of things, like just out of sheer interest in like a subject. He'll learn how to do like leather work. You know, it's kind of it's a pretty cool quality, I think. All right, wait a second. This is not going to be that angle. Do do do. So I definitely think the cacophony of snoring dogs is pretty awesome. I feel like people who don't own dogs miss out on the amazingness of a snoring dog. I shouldn't have him looking at the camera. He should be looking at. There we go. Do cats snore? That is a good question. I will have to ask. I mean, you've had cats, my wife. Like, she's not on mic, so you're probably not hearing it. But she's asking if cats snore, and I was gonna say she used to own cats. So I have never been a cat person because I'm deathly allergic to cats. That's specifically the only reason. They're really cute. I think if I weren't allergic, I'd be all about cats. but I have to say also that I Chris was saying our cat was pretty quiet. They're generally pretty silent when napping. Yeah, you don't get the crazy dog-like madness. And it's funny because I guess not all dogs snore, but apparently Chihuahuas snore just like pugs, which is kind of interesting.
Well, he's also kind of old. Right?
Yeah, Mai pointed out that he's also older, so that might have something to do with it. I've also learned that I snore, which is kind of shocking to me. Because the thing that's weird about snoring, if you do snore, is you don't actually know you snore. Like, you have really no way of knowing if you're snoring because you're asleep. So, the only way you find out you're snoring is if someone tells you you snore. And you're like, oh, I have no idea. It's a strange thing, I think. Um, Sleep things are strange. Like, you know, people who sleepwalk. Like, I just think there's so much strangeness about things being done in your sleep, because you literally have no idea. Like, and that's a little frightening. The fact that it's like, hey, I do this thing and I have no idea that I'm doing it. Um, and, and it, you know, yeah. So, anyhow, I found that really fascinating. Just the fact that it was a little surprising to me that it was surprising. It's like a lot of people snore, but I just was a little surprised by that. I've also been told that I think in times of my life where I've been under a lot of stress, I tend to talk in my sleep too, which is interesting. Um, let's see here, which makes sense because I have had times, like those work dreams where you're like you have a deadline and like or or like the school dreams, where it's like your finals late and you show up and everybody got theirs in and you didn't, or what?
Or if you're Mr. Chatty McChat Chat.
Chatty McChat Chat. What does that mean? Oh, Chris was like, poor Mai. Totally poor Mai. Yeah, I feel bad.
I've gotten used to snoring because I can't sleep without my pug snores.
Now the pug snores um, are awesome, and you get used to. And Mai was just saying that off mic too. That like there's something kind of wonderful about pug snores. I even mentioned the pug snores in book one of two stories. But like pug snores are a weird thing. They grow on you, and yeah, it's hard to like relax unless I hear my pug snoring, and then I'm like, okay, it's bedtime. Like I can actually sleep because I can hear the snoring of my little dude. Knowing he's okay makes me feel okay to take a nap, or go to sleep. So there's something strangely comforting about a pug snore. Chris said, I still on occasion have school stress
Oh my god.
stress dreams. And he said, like, I never finished a class to graduate or something.
Yes.
Oh, dude, I have had that one too.
I
Or
like,
where
you forgot to finish an assignment and then you're like halfway through your dream, you're like, but I graduated already. Wait, what? Why am I here?
so Mai has the forgot to do an assignment, but I graduated already. I've had a weird version of that where, and I think this might tie into like imposter syndrome or something, but it's like where they'll inform me that my decree was a mistake. And they're like, sorry, we need to take that back. And you're like, hey, wait, you can't take it back. Like, I worked really hard for that. They're like, sorry, no, you didn't quite make it. So, yeah, I've had those ones.
promised you assignments, so you're gonna have to come back and finish that one.
Yeah, those are always funny ones where it's like dream logic's always very interesting too. Chris said, I love that bit in book 1. Thank you, Chris. I was actually pretty happy with that bit too, with the snorking. Hey, look at that. Halfway there. I also gave myself a much wider jaw than I have.
You're halfway there.
Yep, I did. So Maya's prompting me to sing Living on a Prayer because I said halfway there. And I just want to point out that there is a reason that Maya is my wife, and the fact that she would bring up that song when I say halfway there is one of them. Because I totally do that often when I say halfway there. I also tend to like, and Chris knows this about me, but I'll tend to say, as I'm getting closer to something, like do the whole trench run, almost there. Almost there.
From behind.
All right, so I'm pretty excited. That's we're at the halfway point. So I'm gonna go get a refill of my coffee, and I'm gonna come back and power through this. Chris, I'm gonna send you a link to the stream, but you do not have to feel obligated to join. But if you want to hop on, I only throw that out there because it's a possibility. But I also understand because like if you're hanging out in jammies or something, you may not want to. But I will send you the stream, and I will be back shortly. So I sent it through Facebook Messenger if you want to. All right, so I'm gonna step out for 2 seconds and then refill my coffee and power through the last hour, the power hour. I think I'm gonna actually get to bed by like 1 a.m. tonight, which is actually early compared to the weird, crazy schedule I've been on. Pretty excited about it. Okay, be right back. Oh, coffee.
That's something we should put on sometimes. The Muppets.
Wait, what? What?
I should put on the Muppets.
That would be great. I would like to. I think the Disney Plus has the whole thing. Okay. All right. All right, so here we go. I do like that Chris also reflected the almost there. I always feel like that's a good way to go. Let's see here. So I'm going to be doing this second panel, or not second, this is the 5th panel. And I want it to be kind of like the same shot here. And then I'm going to pull out again so that it's not, I think I can get away with 2 talking heads. And then I think that's, I don't know if that's a rule or anything, but it definitely seems like one to me. Where it's like you have 2 talking heads in a row. I think people might be okay with that. It's good. It shows expression, that kind of thing. 3 talking heads, and your head will explode. I think that's the rule, the official rule. I don't know. Maybe I'll have to do a third and find out. That would be hilarious. The screen just goes white because my head explodes, and it's just like you just hear this me. That trope that's in all those action movies. I forget the first movie that did that. I actually think that might have been Iron Man. Well, it might have been the first movie I saw where they had like an explosion and then they had like the sound of like ringing in your ears. It was very effective. And now it's like so common where it's pretty common now. So it's like it's not quite as it's almost like expected where you're like, oh, there was an explosion. Now the audio in the film is going to go wee. But I do think it was like, I don't know. I'm trying to think if there was another film that did that prior to Iron Man. But
Saving Private Ryan.
yeah, maybe Saving Private Ryan. That had a lot of like really cool firsts. You know, like I still remember there's a sequence in that film that still to this day just like totally blows my mind, and it's when they're at like Normandy and you actually end up with the troops like in the water, like the camera's there in the water and then it sinks down underwater, so you actually hear like these bullets like flying, and then when you sink underwater, the camera sinks underwater, it's like this muted sound, and then when it comes up you hear the full sound. It was really, I mean, there was a lot of stuff about that. But I think the fact that it kind of brought you in there, that was like one of the first movies to do that too. But I don't know, that explosion ringing in ears thing is effective, but it's almost like getting to the point of like, it doesn't really have the full effect that it used to in film. It's got to be a bummer to be a filmmaker who comes up with something cool and new and then see it just utilized so much it becomes like a trope and it almost loses the power of what it was originally. I'm sure that's just kind of normal. I mean, but then again, it might also be flattering. Like if there were things I did in like 2 stories and then cartoonists suddenly are all like, yeah, we're using this thing that Josh did. Like that might actually be kind of cool. Because at least you're at the point where, you know, people are ripping you off. I guess that's actually a good thing. Let's see here. So I am sketching the hand movement here. This is going to be, the text is going to say, I know, I'm like building these little Frankenstein panels. It's kind of interesting. Yeah, Chris was saying that was pretty prominent in Saving Private Ryan. So yeah, it probably was Saving Private Ryan. I felt like the first 20 minutes of that movie were impeccable. And then it might be unpopular to say, but I felt like the whole end of the movie was almost like pointless. Like, because I think the movie was like sort of trying to be this very real depiction of what war is like. And the first like 40 minutes of it are like that. And I feel like it could have almost just ended, but then it kind of becomes like a buddy war movie. Like, so it sort of becomes what it was trying to not be, like toward the end. At least that's what I got out of it. But still a very powerful movie, but I do feel like that last part of it we could have done without. Oh my gosh. Portland. Not Portland.
Pork can.
Pork can. Yeah.
Oh no.
So then here we're going to have sort of the same angle, similar scene, just filling in these gaps. And then this is going to be, see if this works. Just thumbnails. I feel like doing these streams really makes me respect the hell out of Bob Ross. Because like Bob Ross is like, there's something transfixing about Bob Ross when he's working, and also just something kind of brilliant about like his kind of catchphrases like happy trees and stuff like that. So
You know, he wasn't always like that.
yeah, so my is getting into Bob Ross used to be, this is like a weird little Bob Ross factoid, but he used to be like a glad my brought that to my attention. He used to be, I guess, like in the military, and he was known as this like kind of strict, regimented, like tough dude. Like he's a really hard boss and like I guess kind of violent. And I don't know. There's stories about this, but online. And then I guess he, as he got older, just like realized he didn't like being filled with anger all the time. And so he kind of adopted like these different methodologies for living. And so that's how Bob Ross kind of became like the happy trees guy and the like, hey, happy mistakes, like he was like this rigid disciplinarian when he was in the military, and just kind of like got fed up with that part of his personality, and also I think became fairly anti-war as he got older and stuff. So it's like interesting. I went down this rabbit hole watching a bunch of Bob Ross stuff like a while ago. He has like a pet squirrel, and I think that's pretty amazing. Like he has like a pet squirrel that he feeds through like a with like a syringe. Like he feeds it like syrup, and he'll have it like kind of hang and chill in his pocket while he's painting and stuff. It's pretty awesome. I think he's pretty amazing. And it's a fun rabbit hole to go down just watching like Bob Ross stuff. I wouldn't particularly like I don't know. I mean, his paintings are pretty incredible for what they are. I'm not like a big fan of just like plain landscape paintings. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just like, they kind of look like there's a look to those paintings that is very like doable, like by a lot of people. It's not like specifically unique to Bob Ross. And so like a lot of it, like there's little palette knife tricks and stuff like that, which by the way is in like any medium. But he's still a pretty good artist, and he still does like I still have moments where I'll watch like a Bob Ross video and be like, how the hell did he do that? That's pretty amazing. And actually it's funny because I was like, I don't know if I'd buy like a painting like that, but then I was realizing like I would hella buy a Bob Ross and have that in my house. I think that would be pretty amazing. I do think like figurative work is way more interesting to me than like I love landscapes with figures, but I feel like sometimes just straight landscape work can be pretty dull. Although I'm forgetting, like, there was this, now I'm going to forget the guy's name. There's this, like, British dude who we learned about in art school. He does these, like, misty kind of seaside landscape paintings. And those are pretty amazing. So, by the dude I can't remember the name of. All right, let's see here. Let me make sure. Okay. Oh, we are getting joined by Chris Kawagua, who will be invading our stream right now.
Working.
How's it going, Chris?
Let me Okay, hold on. I was listening to you on my cell phone, and then there's an echo now.
Oh, I gotcha. That makes perfect sense. Let me switch this up to I have like a little thinner stack that I have to set up for a second just to get my stream back. Oh, come on. You can do this. You can do this, computer. Okay.
All right.
Oh, there it is. Okay. How you doing, Chris?
Good. How are you, man?
Pretty good. Working late. Mai's back here working on stuff.
Hey,
too.
Mai.
We're apparently in the past because we're black and white. So
I like it.
Yeah, I'm trying for like the old timey.
The comic though, because it's all black and white too. Yeah, it works.
That was my
so that's what was wrong with my camera. It was like I had a Snapchat filter thing on, and I couldn't turn it off. Mm-hmm. So it was just like a yellow square, and either that or like bunny ears, and I couldn't turn those off. So I'm like, I don't want to get on with these.
Well, no worries. And also, like, anytime I offer something like that, you don't have to come on. It's just more like, well, we're kind of chatting anyway. So
yeah,
it's like our old art
These
night.
are fun to watch. They're a good motivation for me. I know, right? We used to stay up all night just doodling.
Yeah.
Those were
like I think that's kind of like a good thing to have. You need art friends.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, no, it's true. It's good motivation. I feel like just to hear what people are working on and kind of like share it, you know.
Yeah. I like doing them. I'm kind of thinking it's something I'll keep doing because I think it's also a fun window into like the work that goes into these things, and then also it's just like fun for me to like hang out, have random people stop by. And yesterday was hilarious. Chris and Jim came on, mm-hmm. And then like I went because at about an hour I usually refill my coffee for like 2 seconds. And right when I did that, they like played the intro for their own show for the Breaking the Chain show. And nice. When I came back, they had like hijacked it and were doing Breaking the Chains. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life.
So funny. It's like, we're going to do our own show now.
I liked it. So it's fun like to have like weird, awesome stuff and just chat whilst working. It's very similar to like when we used to hang out. Mm-hmm. Like in Long Beach, because Chris and I, like during, actually after art school and stuff, we used to just kind of both be freelance, and we'd be talking on the phone or something while we were working, and be like, I don't know, you want to hang out because we work weird hours and like no one else did.
Mm-hmm. So that was so convenient. Yeah, it wasn't too far away, so we could just hop on over.
Yeah, and then we were both in the t-shirt game for a while too, so it's like it was a good way to kind of throw ideas at
you had some really good ones that you just kind of like, I remember being there, you'd come up with an idea and like, how about this, and you have to look it up and see if like, has this been done, and check out to see if anybody has tried it before.
Yeah, it was an interesting kind of unique time, and I'm not sure if that industry is ever going to kind of like hit.
It's not the same. Yeah, it definitely like technology and print on demand as an industry is totally changed now.
Yeah.
So I feel like the dynamic is different, where you're looking for companies to like be the springboard. It
Yeah.
helps, I'm sure, but it's not nowhere ever going to be the same way that it was. It was kind of like being in the .com boom or something, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
It was fun though.
that was that was fun to be a part of, you know.
It was a good launching board to kind of a career too. So like I can't complain.
Yeah.
But it is funny because like if I had to give somebody advice on like starting an illustration or whatever, it definitely gives you a perspective as to like why that's a hard question to answer, because you're like, I don't know, man, like things change all the time.
I know, right? And we have a different perspective now because we cut our teeth at a very different time.
Yeah.
Oh, you
I
want to
love
see
the Captain America shield that's crafted long ago. Oh, is this the leather?
This is the thing.
Oh, you did the. Okay, now I'm seeing what you're.
Double holster. Yeah. Oh yeah, you're in this whole firearms page, and I have this is a fake. It's a fake. It's not real. Airsoft plastic. But yeah, so this is what I was sewing last time, and then I'm more proud of this thing though. This took a while to figure out, these little snaps.
That's so cool.
But my little wood ammo pouches.
Oh, okay, nice. So that's like your clips.
Yeah.
That's rad, and it's the double holster, which I didn't realize you were building the double holster. I was
There you go.
thinking like a belt.
Yeah, no, I have one of those, like an old vintage one I picked up somewhere. It is very funny that I'm into gun ephemera, but not actually guns.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Where it's like,
right, it's the fantasy aspect is a bigger thing for me, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, they're fun to draw, and they're fun to like. It's fun to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like yeah. It's kind of
if you're using them as like a story device. Yeah.
Yeah, I had this thought with my son too, where I was like, I don't know if I want him to like play with toy guns and stuff when he was younger, but then like very quickly like changed my mind on it, because he just started making like he just started pretending
pew, pew, sounds.
So it's like regardless, he's gonna be playing with toy guns.
Yeah. Right.
So it is really interesting what like how young, like especially I think little boys just start like emulating war.
Yeah, for sure.
But
some of those Nerf guns, they're so cool now. You know, like they're like the one you had, the 6-shooter that snaps into place.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely so many fun options. I think it's just about like understanding the real and the fantasy parts. You know, it's like that's important to it's really fun to play in that fantasy element, but just know like the real thing requires a lot of safety and knowledge and control.
Yeah.
Which I think you're covering in this. You know, I really like some of the stuff you're talking about in this latest, in the thumbnails here I'm seeing.
Cool. Yeah, it was weird to go down this rabbit hole of like gun safety, because I'm like, I as I've gotten older, I'm not even really a believer in owning at all. For myself, like it's different for other people, but but it's such a weird, it's just a surreal part of the story where it's like, it's just strange that like right after this really intense sequence, we're now going through gun safety.
Well, because this part I didn't know, you know, I didn't know that this was like what you're, you know, the aftermath of what happened. So this is kind of interesting for me, because like I didn't know you went to, this was something that you're looking into. So it's pretty interesting, because like this is the time that you would think that like, should I get one? Because you don't know when the world is gonna show itself as being more dangerous than you imagined, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's kind of a weird part in the story, you know? It's weird writing about too, because it was so long ago, but it is interesting. Like the one thing that's strange about memoir is like there's people I know who will remember like
right. Yeah.
You know, but it's like you almost have to like forget that part of it. Almost like it's almost like you have to forget it actually happened and treat it like a story.
Yeah. Well, you still gotta package it for an audience.
Yeah.
Makes sense. You know, it's like, it's not just like it can't have the same sort of like dream logic, like how you remember it. It just, it's also to be like accessible for other people to get what was going on.
Yeah, it's very interesting. How are your so what are you, so you worked on that? Are you right now working on the bullet things?
No. I don't need to add to more. I'm gonna call this done because I feel like I was starting to get into a like a what do you call that? Just like a inescapable whirlpool of like I'm gonna get obsessed with this and keep adding to it, so,
Nice.
and not get to the comic book, So I need to get back to the drawing bits, which I kind of miss. Hey, Crimson Owl's in the house.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello. He's working on the coolest looking comic. It's like got two. I think it's from the 1880s and the 1980s.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's so it's like a horror story. I think that like activities in the 1880s then come back in the 1980s, and he's doing the sequences that are in the 1880s in like this black, white, and red, and then full color for current, which I think is really fascinating. Cool.
Yeah, I love when there's like cool color schemes that kind of show off different parts of an era.
Yeah, me too. That's why, like here, I use this different. Oh, wait a minute.
In this one, yeah, to talk about changing up styles to show different aspects of a genre.
Well, I was trying to just think of like color, and then yeah, it's black and white. So.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, your camera's black and white.
I would like to have. I think whenever I'm done with this book, I'm gonna try to do something in color again. Maybe like a young adult thing or something. I don't know.
It just takes so much more time though to do color. It's
yeah, and then it's actually harder to sell unless it's young adult. Like it's a harder sell for a publisher because it's going to cost them more to print.
Right. So. Yeah. It jumps up so significantly when it goes to like a full color printout. But super hard to market if it's not, when it's black and white.
Yeah, I think with like adult comics, you're kind of okay.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think with children's comics, it's like a case in point is like, I mean, Bone had to be colored. It's
right.
Like,
yeah,
that's like a perfect.
It's beautifully colored too. Like it really helped elevate it to that for that demographic.
You know what I just realized? I need to get those books for Ben because he's finally at the age.
Yeah, right.
That's no, but like we should get the Scholastic ones,
You don't want him to mess up your one.
Yeah, I don't really
you have pre-Scholastic printings?
I have Bone, like not the thick one that I think that's still by Image, the big one, the big Bible. I don't have that one because I bought them as graphic novels when they were cartoon books.
Right.
So they're literally the self-published ones Jeff Smith published.
That's pretty neat. I really think there's something charming about like being an early supporter.
Yeah.
It's picked up by something giant like Scholastic, and it's like liking a band before they were big, It's like
But I think it's cool because I got into it around I think like 4th grade was when I bought the first collection, and then it was like every year or so I'd get the next one, which is kind of crazy the output he must have had.
Right, because they're long. They're huge.
Yeah, that's kind of nuts, but yeah, so I'd wait for the trade and then buy it, and then I remember like midway through their run, he switched it from cartoon books to Image, and so those are the versions I have. But I was thinking about it, and like my son would probably like the color more.
Right. Yeah, I think so.
And so and also they're like, little hardback books, so that'd be cool because he really likes those like Dogman books.
I don't know that one, but
they're by the guy who did like Captain Underpants, like Dave Pilkey, I think. He's really brilliant, but he also does this comic called Dogman, and it's hilarious. It's like it's almost like stick figure art, but it's comics.
Yeah,
and they're hilarious. They're really funny.
Check them out.
Yeah.
Kind of reminiscent to what's it called, the cat, crazy cat.
Yeah, they're a little like crazy cattish.
Okay.
Let's see. Yeah, I mean, we went up there. When we went up there,
Dogman had this weird love-hate relationship with his boss.
oh,
He like adores him, and his boss hates him.
so Maya's talking about because I don't think the mic is picking that up, right?
No, I can hear a little bit.
Okay.
But
Yeah. Okay.
repeat for the audience, though. I don't know if
Yeah. I'm trying to kind of make sure people can hear. We gotta get like Maya mic for.
I
these
know,
things,
right?
too. It'd be
Just have
fun.
her mic'd in. Just pipe in her voice. It's just like
She said she likes people not being able to hear because it's funny.
it just sounds like you're going crazy.
Yeah, it's just like I'm talking.
Yeah,
Like,
you're
what was
just-
that? What was that?
No, I
You've just been working too long.
But yeah, so she actually was pointing out like there's kind of a similar like love dynamic. Like Crazy Cat is based on, this cat who's in love with Ignatz, who's a mouse, right?
Mhm.
And he's just like madly in love with Ignatz, and then Ignatz is in love with Officer Pup, and Officer Pup is in love with Crazy Cat.
Mm-hmm.
And so like Officer Pup keeps arresting Ignatz because Ignatz keeps throwing bricks at Crazy Cat.
Mm-hmm. That's
And
your
then-
you show off the tattoo, right? You gotta
Yeah.
right. You can tell the story via your tattoo.
Yeah. So anyhow, it's like the tattoos, the classic like Ignatz beaming
Brick, yeah.
Crazy Cat with a brick. But anyhow, that dynamic, there's a similar one with Dogman, where it's like
Okay.
the he's a police officer. The police chief is in love with Dogman, but he's like kind of a bad cop. Like he's just kind of like a really badly behaved dog.
Uh-huh.
And so he like, yeah, it's very funny, but there's like a similar dynamic where it's like, there's a little bit of a love triangle
Mhm.
going on as well.
It's more like a love, like pentagon or something, right? Like there's multiple.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which isn't a bad story element. I think
Mhm.
I might have to borrow from if I ever stop doing memoir. So 10 years from now when I'm done with this book.
Right. I don't know. You got a good pace on this one, man. You're like, it feels even faster than the last one.
Yeah, I mean, I feel pretty good about it. It's just because it's like 90 pages thumbnail so far, and they're tighter thumbnails. So I think it will go quicker.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also kind of looking forward to like the dessert mentality of it, like where it's like my favorite thing in the world to do in comics is the inking stage.
Right.
When you have everything penciled and you're just kind of in the zone inking.
Yeah.
And if I do this the way I'm hoping to do it, it means I'm going to have like half a year of just inking.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be really fun.
Right. Where you can just enjoy it. Because I think this is the hardest part. I don't know how you do this live, like thumbnailing.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to get used to. I think it's partially just trying to kind of get in a flow where but one of the things I also like about doing it live is I can kind of live like make decisions that to change it up. So one of my favorite ones recently was like when I was doing the gun thing and it became like a weird gun ad, and it's like I don't know what led to that. I always love those moments though. That's my favorite thing about thumbnailing is like when you have that moment of like, what if and then it works.
Uh-huh. Your method's so different from mine though, because I have such a scattershot like method of I'll sketch out a bunch of loose placements or just like moments.
Yeah.
Outside of boxes initially.
Yeah.
Because
that makes sense.
Do you just jump in and like, because these are pretty well placed stuff, like.
Well, I mean, Yeah, I kind of do just
Yeah.
jump in.
I don't know. That's it's pretty impressive, I think, because I mean maybe it's just the sheer number of pages you've put in. I think you've got like you can imagine things where things are gonna go.
Yeah, and I think it depends on the type of paneling you're doing, because I think you do more dynamic paneling. I'm pretty much sticking to like a 9-panel grid for my format.
I think that it works really well, yeah, because I think that's what I'm trying to like do my thing right now. You know, and not a lot of mine are breaking frames or like layering
Yeah,
people in positions, but it's like way difficult to keep that flow, you know.
yeah, it really is. But I do think like you do more inventive stuff with paneling. My play with paneling is more like these weird departures from the grid where
Mm-hmm.
you know, like so I try to be playful, but I don't do a ton with the shape
Mm-hmm.
of panels themselves.
Yeah.
And I might for another book, you know. I think with this one, particularly the sequences it was going over, it just wasn't like calling for more inventive paneling, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of weird how that happens. It's like different stories have different needs.
Yeah, that makes sense though, because it's like you don't want to use a trick you have just because you have it. It's like a magic trick. If
Yeah.
it doesn't fit with that theme or what you're trying to say in that moment, you don't need to use it just because you have it.
Yeah, and then there's times like you know, I love when there are times where you have a magic trick and it's perfect for the part, but
And you're like, oh, I've been waiting for this, and now you can use it.
yeah, but it's
Yeah.
so interesting the difference. I don't know. I that's that weird part about writing that is hard to explain, where it's just like there's
Mhm.
just things that feel right, and you kind of can't. Like you might be able to kind of analyze and break down why it feels right, but there's just this kind of intuitive thing where it's like seeing part of like where like of what a story needs, you know. I don't know. Where do you think that comes from? That's really weird to me, like that part where you're like it just feels, I don't know.
And that's like the question where like where does creative inspiration come from, right? Like it's
Yeah.
like I listen to something like like a song or something, and like literally any note can go anywhere, and like now, but it sounds right here, you know.
Yeah.
Which is something I don't understand at all because I don't do music, but it's like I guess the same sort of thing happens with like when is a painting done? Like you know, like it's you can keep going at it forever. Yeah. But I think it's just like practice, right? You just kind of like the sheer number of hours you put into something builds the intuition.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Like you know, because I did the first graphic novel, I do think that's partially why this is taking less time too, because I kind of know the story and I know the feel. And so it's like an intuitive thing because it's like I've been carving this story for, you know, 5 years or something, you know, over 5 years at this point. But it's like it's going to be interesting when it changes up and I have to kind of re-find that whatever that is for like a new story. Although that also sounds super fun.
Yeah, no, there's a exciting part to each stage of it, I think.
So do you have like an idea for a story that you are working on currently? Like, is it scripted?
Yeah. So I was going to ask you, I mean, I'm pretty sure yours is the script is already completely finished, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yours, yeah, I think you have a better system just because like I haven't done this very many times. Like this one, I have the script already done. I know how it ends, and I know there's something I know even the last page. I feel like I know there's something that has to happen between, and it's really short. It's ridiculous. I'm embarrassed how short it is compared to how many you're doing. It's like 10 pages, right? Because it's like a fable, so it's not even. So I'm trying to like tell a big story in a short amount of space.
Yeah,
like
that's awesome.
So that's the challenge, but I was stuck with the writing part, but I knew I liked the story enough to do it. So I've already started it without knowing what happens about 3/4 of the way through.
Oh,
But
okay.
but I know how it ends. So I just started the first few just because it felt like I wasn't making enough headway. I was like hitting a roadblock with that writing part.
Yeah.
But I figured I will eventually figure out what needs to happen.
Yeah.
It's mostly refinement too. It's not like major plot thing, but I just want to refine it to make it make sense. And I'm finding like as I'm doing it, I'm kind of changing a few things as I go, especially with taking a cue out of your playbook here and trying to do some handwritten stuff.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it fits better. Yeah,
Isn't it?
First. Yeah.
I love especially with thumbs, it's good to handwrite, even if you're going to do it digitally later, because it's like if you don't plan that space, man.
Yeah, no, that's what I realized for my first couple, like with the Raven one, right?
Yeah.
I went back and redid it, like hand. What is it? Hey, Corey's here.
Made by Corey now. I love it. I'm gonna start calling these invasions just for fun.
Invasions. Yeah,
because I called yesterday's. I forget what I called it. I think I called it like sabotage or something like. But it was just like a joke because of you guys hijacking the stream. Oh, I think I called it hijacked.
Oh yeah,
that's pretty good too. If it's
that was a good bit though. I thought that was brilliant.
I was hesitating to jump in because I was so interested in what Chris was saying. So don't.
Oh, I don't know.
Don't mind me.
Yeah.
Carry on.
What was I saying?
So
yeah, I'm making it up as I go along for comics. Is what I'm saying. Is like I'm not.
Yeah.
I haven't done enough to have a good system, but I realized like I don't want to. My excuse was like I can't get the script right, so I'm not going to start. So I just started.
I think it depends.
And I'll have to figure it out on the way down. You know, like just.
Because I feel like you know, like like for instance, Corey and you actually probably have a very like slightly similar thing going in the sense of like you're working on like a mythology, Chris, right? Where it's like it's going to be potentially like something where it could be a variety of stories within a mythological setting,
right? Which I have a bigger like idea and already started like scripting that too. But yeah, it's work. These mini stories we're supposed to be are going to work within a big story. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think with that it does allow a little more leeway than like you know a memoir where it's like specifically driving at one point. And so like all the filler that I'm throwing in has to have like complete intention. Like I can't deviate because there's just too much to cover, you know?
Right.
But it's like if this were a story, like there's something great about like you know like the Sandman stories, for instance, where they'll deviate a bit,
right?
But it does fulfill a greater narrative. So I don't know if that's like necessarily bad. I mean, for me, I find that if I don't script it out, I end up in a hole. But that's for me. I mean, my favorite cartoonist is Chris Ware, and it's like he doesn't pre-script. So
that's crazy. Oh my, really?
Mind-boggling.
He just, I mean, it's almost like, I don't know, like jazz or something. I guess it's a process, but every little bit takes so long. You know, it's not like you can do it on a whim. Like, I'm just going to casually lay out this page. It's like that page is going to take a while no matter how fast you are. It's not like.
Yeah. And it's kind of scary, right? Because it's like those are such meticulous pages. And since he's.
Right.
I don't know with his later work, because I haven't read interviews recently by him. So maybe by like Rusty Brown, he started scripting it out. But it's like, from what I recall, at least Jimmy Corrigan, he was doing that a page at a time.
Oh, really?
And just kind of going wherever the character took him.
Yeah.
And that to me is baffling. You know, because what if you took a wrong turn? I don't know.
I guess you're stuck with it. Yeah, but I think for mine, I draw so much more there's some direct inspiration from Neil Gaiman's Sandman series when it comes to the mythology things and what he did with like kind of twisting known stories into a new way.
Yeah, I think it's mean, that's such a fun. I think that's a really fun thing to do, and also it's neat because in a world like if you build a world like that, there's a lot of play.
Mm-hmm.
I finally read Fables, like the first 2 graphic
Oh,
novels.
those are fun. I've only read a couple, but yeah, I like what they did with that one too.
Yeah, and there's similar structure where it's like you could go all over the place in that world with like a
Mhm.
bunch of different characters, but it's still the world, and like it's sort of I don't know. Yeah. So
Corey, have you ever read these? Sorry, go ahead.
I haven't. I don't know what they are.
Sandman and
Oh,
Fables.
I've read. Well, I listened to the Sandman audiobook. I've actually never read the comic.
the
Oh,
audio
that's cool. I heard about. Yeah, I heard about it and never actually got to check it out. I really want to know.
It's great.
There is one part of that one chapter that is the most horrifying thing I've ever listened to.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
Yeah, the comic.
Because I think I heard Neil Gaiman talk about certain things about that. Like the comic never specifies the voices of people. Like the reader kind of comes up with it on their own. So for the first time, there's like an audio like interpretation of what the imagination does.
Yeah.
So it's like very, very new and kind of like it becomes its own format.
I will tell you the comic that part you're referring to originates from is some of the best, most horrific storytelling in comics as well.
No, I'm going to be honest. I'm not sure if I want to see those images. Like, hearing them, I was like,
well, you have such a unique experience because you haven't read the book. You've only heard that's amazing.
So I don't want to give a spoiler for anyone, but are you talking about the diner sequence?
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah, that is literally like one of the most horrific comics ever written.
Like, if I could skip that one, the rest of it, I mean, it was great. But I mean, I'm
also
probably
the serial killer convention's pretty creepy.
Oh, the Corinthian?
That was like some. It had like a comedic twist to it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I think it was just like everyone slowly being driven insane. I don't know. I don't like the lack of agency in that situation.
Because yeah, a comic book you can just close it and you're like, I don't like this, put it away. But in audio, it's like it just keeps going.
It's still in my ears, and it's like this is. And at first, it's kind of like a little bit of a slow burn because you can't see it. It's like you open the page and you look at it and you're like, "Whoa, that's gross."
Right.
You're slowly getting these descriptions, and
it gets worse and worse too.
Well, and the way the narrator does it is
so brilliant.
Extremely nonchalant. Like it's anyway. Yeah, it was very well done.
Yeah.
I'm not much into horror though, but it was great.
Yeah.
So one of the things I love about the Sandman though is that it is a horror comic and then it's not. It's like and I think the audio book it was fun to hear because a lot of these stories built over years and years for people following it, and it's interesting to hear in like 20 minutes them go through like an entire graphic novel and you're like, holy crap, like it's so. And it's also cool to see all the threads because like it's much more connected than it felt at first, because when the Sandman was coming out, like for instance, there's like the African narrative too, and it's like that just felt like out of nowhere when the comics came out, where it was like, wait, what? This is a totally different storyline. It's like this weird, just disconnected thing. It was cool to see it all woven together. But I was really impressed by how well they did with that, like how well it translated to audio, particularly the diner one, because that comic is super disturbing. But
I think I've forgotten so much of it. Like it's so interesting because oftentimes I didn't think of it as a horror thing, but horrible stuff did happen. Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, I have to give it another read because I thought I was so much more really interested in the ideas of like the endless and these concepts, and I realized and as part of the subplots there's so much terrible things that I guess would be considered a horror thing.
Yeah, it is weird. It's very multi-genre book, series. But it's one of my favorites. It's one of the books that got me into indie comics. And you know this, Chris.
That was the book that I think that got. Yeah, I think that was the first book I think I read that wasn't capes and tights superhero type stuff.
Yeah,
and it was after a long lull of I hadn't read comics in a long time, and sometime probably in college I think. But it was, yeah, I thought like this is some really neat things I didn't give a chance to before.
Yeah. Death: The High Cost of Living was one of those transitionary books where I read that, and then I tried to read superhero comics after, and I was like, this is not the same. Like it's not like
they're totally different. Yeah, they serve different things,
Yeah, and that book touched on, and this might be an interesting route to go, but it's like I feel like when you're, because the thing I loved about Death: The High Cost of Living was like the non-fantasy parts, where it was like, the more, although I love the fantasy parts of it too, it was just the fact that it was kind of slice of life, and I was like, whoa, that's crazy that can be done, But I do think there is something weird that happens when you kind of find like a genre that's like your jam, like where you read it and you're like, this is like the kind of thing I'm supposed to make, like, I don't know. And it's a little different when you have that moment than like stuff where you're like I love Mandalorian and I'm like way into Mandalorian, and I would, happily like do some Mandalorian stuff, but I don't feel driven to write like stuff like the Mandalorian,
It's very funny, Josh, because you and I are like, I watched the Mandalorian and I'm like, I need to make the Mandalorian. That's the first thing I did. Like, I think I need to build this.
Oh, that I totally get. Like, I kind of, did you make that helmet?
And then, actually, I did. Yeah.
No way.
It's like it's a cheapy like Chinese knockoff one, because this is before, I don't think Hasbro even has like sold the toy yet. Like it's still coming out this summer. But I was impatient and I'm like, I feel like I can build this, and so he's basically like a refurbished version with like reinforced metal lining and stuff and pads.
My son is obsessed with helmets, and specifically.
You should come to my house. You can.
No, I'm like, he would be like a kid in a candy store. But we started watching Mandalorian, and he's like 2, but he loves it. He calls it Helmet Guy. He's like, Helmet Guy. Like, we were. It was like Halloween, but it was like during the day, and we were just like outside scraping the snow off my driveway, and my neighbor was walking home from work in like a full Din Djarin outfit, and my kid was like,
yeah, he's real. I knew he's real. Yeah,
look,
that's amazing for a kid. Yeah,
and like so we spent months looking for like a helmet. I can't find them.
They're tough. That's why I got impatient, and I'm like, I'm just gonna order this knockoff from eBay, and like, what is it? Add smooth on and like like epoxy and resin to make it harder.
Was it like 3D printed and then you used the smooth on 3D print filler, or was it like more like smooth on like Bondo to like build it out?
It's so it's really like soft, right? Like it's squishy on the front here. Right. But then I added some metal lining so that it'll retain its shape a little bit better.
Okay.
And then there's some like motorcycle helmet pads on the inside.
Yeah.
And then this part was really cheap. The front, it was like I don't know what it was. It was kind of like a jelly type thing. Like the lens was not quality at all. So I cut up one of those like those sun shield things.
Yeah.
And so that's what that is. And I cut that into a T-square and then repainted it, because the paint job was terrible, because it was almost like a beigey color. So it was mostly just, I didn't have to cast it or anything, but on the inside is resin to make it a lot harder too.
So then you also made, like, Christina has the
armor
order, right?
The armor helmet. Yeah, that's when I made this, she's like, I want the armor one, and so like I immediately found a 3D printed one, and it worked. That was her Christmas present. So that's
so awesome.
Yeah. So she's got one in our room, and we can be helmet guy and girl together. Yeah.
Corey, what was the show your son was just watching recently where he had another nickname for the show? He's calling like a character.
Oh, are you talking about? He started playing the Scott Pilgrim versus the World video game.
Yes. What does he call
Oh, it's
Scott
funny.
Pilgrim?
What does he calls it? He calls it
It was so good.
Sop Zoom Pugum.
Sups.
Stop Zoom Pugum.
He started with Sop Zoom, like Scott, and then I guess he just made something up for Pilgrim. But then he kind of figured out how to say Pilgrim, but he kept this Zoom. So it's like Sop Zoom.
Puga.
He's like, Dad, play Sop Zoom. Dad, play Sop Zoom.
Sup Zoom Pugum.
I think that's amazing.
That's great.
We had a couple people over today. It's like a 4-player game, and so there's these like teenagers playing with my 2-year-old. They were so patient because he just kept running to the left, and I just kept hearing Maddox, come over here, Matt, go to the right, Maddox. I'm like, dude, he doesn't know his right from his left.
Yeah. It's so funny how much like broad appeal there is. You know, he could be 2 to teenage. You know.
Oh yeah. That game is super fun.
Is it? Yeah. Yeah, it looks really fun.
I'll have to check that out. I think Corey, when you're building your world, you need to have a character named Helmet Guy, and you need another character named Sop Zoom.
Sop Zoom Pugum.
Sop Zoom Pugum. Yeah, Sop Zoom Pugum, that would fit in my world a lot better than Helmet Guy. But
Helmet Guy could just be, I don't know, like maybe he's just like a jackass who's a side character. Helmet Guy is like
the funny thing is he can say Mandalorian. It just takes him a while. He like stutters on it. He's like Mandalorian.
Yeah.
It's like way easier for him to just say Helmet Guy.
Well, I mean,
yeah, right.
But like everybody's Helmet Guy, like Iron Man, Ant-Man, Captain America, they're all like Din Djarin, they're all Helmet Guy.
They're all Helmet Guy. And as a dad, you have to know which one he's talking about when he says Helmet Guy. You just have to like, but by context, understand he means this character.
Yeah.
I just love that he's getting so much mileage out of Helmet Guy.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's great. He's got these little like, we had these books for Scarlett when she was like, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 when she was teaching herself how to read.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like really simple books, but they're all the Marvel Avengers. And so he reads these to us, and basically it's just him pointing at it, telling us, you know, Hulk save cat in tree, Hulk cat tree, the cat stuck, Hulk cat, and we're like, yep, that's what that page is.
What a golden time to be alive, and to be a kid. Like, man, they got it so good. They got
I know, right?
There is so much nerdy stuff, and there's ways for everything.
Oh my
so
gosh.
like,
Yeah.
I don't know if kids will ever relate to like it being hard to
Find these
toys.
Yeah.
We'll see you later. Have a good day at work, man. Thanks for hanging in there. And
comes in. But yeah, no, for sure. I think, I mean, we always talk about how the living in the desert of, I don't know, late 80s, early 90s, and not being able to find a Star Wars toy that wasn't a collectible.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I just want this toy. It's like $50. Like, but it's just a tiny, you know.
I was so bummed about my sand person, and then in retrospect, I'm like, that's a great toy.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
That's like legit, like one of the coolest characters
yeah.
in Star Wars.
Yeah, I know.
I remember I found a Princess Leia like 3.75-inch figure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I opened it, and all my friends were like, "Why did you open it?" I'm like, "Because I am playing with a toy." Like,
yeah, I know.
We're kids. What are you doing? Like, but they had them all like in plastic and stuff, and I was like,
"Oh my gosh!"
Like, I'm playing with this
as a kid, you know, like when you're actually not as an adult. Like,
well, I was like 14.
That still counts. That's, you know, like.
But I'm like, it was like 94, and so it was like moving into the like collector. Like I've
For sure, yeah.
fully believed that, like, you know, my Spawn #1 was going to pay for college.
We all did, yeah. Don't worry, I got my Beanie Babies and this Spawn #1. That's gonna be worth that. It's gonna pay for college.
We still
No,
read them though.
I have Spawn #1 signed,
Ooh,
sealed,
that is pretty
and
cool.
I need to actually go through my long boxes at some point.
what you
And I
got,
also
yeah.
need to buy new long boxes. I don't know if they still make the cardboard ones.
They do. I have some.
The ones
Yeah, they
I
still
have are like there's holes and dents in them and stuff because they're like literally the same long boxes I had in junior high. You know, I've never changed the box. They can't be that expensive either. I'm sure it's like $5 to get.
I had a long box of comics that made it all the way through college. I graduated. I moved in with a bunch of guys, and somebody stole it as I was like packing up my stuff to leave.
Come on, man. That sucks.
And then they sold your Spawn #1 for 50 cents.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, jokes on you.
Superman, they made like a whole $1 off of that.
Don't you wish to see the disappointment on their face when they're like, I boosted this long box, must be worth thousands, right? And then you just
There's a couple comics though that I need to kind of I should look into like pricing out. I never want to sell those, but I do have like the original run of Dark Empire. I'm sure that's worth something.
Mine were torn to shreds because that was the only thing I had. So I read it over and over, and it is so beat up.
For nerds like us, that was like the only.
That was the only Star Wars. That's all we had.
And the covers looked like the posters. Like they were so beautifully painted.
Dave Dorman, right, was the cover. Like he was great painted. Yeah, they look like movie posters.
Those were a big deal, like those books, because I think also Lucasfilm like officially was like sanctioning those, and
right.
It was
for the first time in that era. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a huge thing. That was about the same time as Bone, actually.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. Both were coming out around the same time.
I found.
Yeah, I think that was my first comic book, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no way. That was also the first written book after the movie, I think, right?
Oh, really?
I think so. Yeah.
I got into comics, and I got back into comics later in life, but I got into Star Wars later in life. I was like against it just because everybody loved it, and then just my natural contrarian nature.
Yeah, I was like that with Kid A by
Radiohead.
There was like a good 4 years where I intentionally told people Kid A was a terrible album, and I had to read it because people were just so into it for 2 years. And I had a cohort in it too, which is my other friend Josh. We were in a band together, so like at that time, it's like that was like one of the most revolutionary things in music happening in like the rock scene. And so every musician we gigged with would just be like, dude, you got to put on Kid A. You got to listen to Kid A. And we'd just be like, I don't know. It just sounds terrible. Finally, we sat down and listened to Kid A, and we're like, we're such jackasses. Like, why did shut it down? It's just the contrarian, you know, where it's like, yeah.
You want to like the thing that's unpopular. It feels more like it's yours if it's not everybody's, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely liked Star Wars when it was very unpopular too. So, but it wasn't. Didn't make me cool at all. It just made me really weird. And then enough time passed and it started to get popular again. And then it annoyed me that the cool kids started talking about it.
Yes.
It was such a weird, like, God dang it, you like it now? Like, this is so dumb. You made fun of. I remember when you made fun of me for this. Yeah, it was a weird, resentful thing, and now I've just accepted that. I just enjoy the garden of delights when spring is here, you know.
Yeah.
I was all over the place. I have a newspaper article where I quoted what's your favorite movie, and I said anything but Star Wars. Still like I mean, it's like, you know, it's in like some podunk newspaper, but but I still had my grandma make me a Jedi robe that I wore to the pre.
I like that. That's just so much. It's such a contrast of like anything. Oh my gosh, yeah.
I wonder if like because I can kind of slightly relate to that because that's kind of how Star Trek was for me because there used to be a divide,
Hmm.
a very strong divide among the few nerds that actually cared about this stuff.
Hmm.
And
I
it was
wonder if
like,
there still might be. I don't know. I don't think it's as pronounced now, but I think there
yeah,
definitely was a rivalry for sure. You know.
I think it was kind of similar to like the punk metal divide, where it's like it's really basically the same thing and the same people, but they just hate each other for no reason.
It's arbitrary. It's like sports teams. It's really arbitrary. You just pick a side and then
Yeah.
you have fun ribbing at each other, I guess. You know, but. Yeah.
But I used to trash Star Trek like crazy, and when Next Generation was running, I didn't even watch it because I was just like, no, I'm a Star Wars kid. Like I don't do that.
I mean, I didn't, but I don't think I didn't do it out of spite. I was bored with it. It wasn't for the people who wanted the action and stuff. It was more philosophical about civilization and kind of like
just so much talking.
So much talking, and it's not the. It's a different thing, you know. Completely.
Well, and like the Enterprise doesn't like break down like in the same way. If it does, it's like because of nuclear fission or something. It doesn't just jam like the ignition.
It's not an old car, you know. Yeah, it's not the Han Solo bop it to make it start again.
Yeah,
you know, grittiness. Yeah.
But then in retrospect, it's like you know, Mai was like a huge Star Trek fan when I met her, and like she kept pushing me to watch Next Generation. Finally, I watched Next Generation, and I was like, "What the hell was wrong with me? This is brilliant! Like the show's really good."
Yeah. It took me so. Yeah, I can appreciate it now. It's still not my first go-to, but I have a different.
Yeah.
I feel like I've refined my palate, you know, as an adult instead of a kid loving lightsabers and blasters. It's like, oh, they're trying to talk about something very different, you know.
And it's a movie.
Yeah.
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 It's sci-fi, so it's like two different genres too.
But there used to be that crazy divide where it's like you almost like come to blows over like Star Trek versus Star Wars with certain dudes. But this is also the era where like to go to a comic book shop, you know, you'd have to like peruse the long boxes and answer like a quiz when you walk in the door.
See if you're worthy. Oh my god.
Yeah, like a nerd check. You know,
it was literal gatekeeping, not just. And that's still. I think that's the residue of what had the culture that existed for so long, that it's taking a while to shake off this gatekeeping of like, are you a real nerd? It's like, I think it just. It sucks, you know, but I think it eventually just takes time to go away. I hope.
The only comic shop I had access to was 30 miles away, and it was a head shop.
Oh my god! It was a combination of you want your weed, and then like
it was like comics and then tobacco paraphernalia.
That's so weird.
And so I think they just sold comics because I think it would have been too obvious. I don't know. It's like full of like
we saw other products. Yeah.
But I would like convince my mom to like drop me off there while she was doing whatever she was doing, and I like walk in and there's all these like black light posters and weird stuff behind curtains, and I'm like, "Where are your comics?" And they're like, "Really? I guess they're over there."
I guess we have some.
Have it.
That's really funny. I mean, that's dedication. That you gotta drive that far out to find the things that you like. You know.
Man, that's classic. I do think like there's a thing to be said for that time. Like I remember also going like the first Comic-Con I ever went to was like that, where it was mainly like kids my age, like maybe like 7th or 8th grade, and then like very awkward looking dudes in sweatpants, like just perusing long boxes and being like, it's issue 4 of like comic book guy, basically.
Yeah, that was the stereotype. Yeah, that stereotype came from some form of reality, you know, like it wasn't. Yeah,
it was very strange, but yeah, I'm kind of like there's definitely a part of me that likes being able to walk in a comic shop and not have like narrow aisles, and be able to like, you know, hopefully have somebody actually be like, "Hi, how can I help you?" Like, you know,
right? Yeah,
it's kind of a nice change, I think.
Yeah, I don't think there should be any stigma with it. Just like there definitely was.
Yeah, and I do yeah, I do wonder if like that kind of yeah.
I hear a dog in the back.
Yeah, we have a dog like kind of hacking.
Oh.
Dogs get these weird like allergy attacks, and yeah, dogs are weird and stinky and wonderful.
And adorable, yeah.
Dudes, I have finished my page.
Oh no way.
Yeah.
Okay. So I made panels for my page.
This is the tiny
Oh, yeah, this is the
dog
crazy one.
that was snoring so loudly.
Yeah.
Oh,
Look how tiny he is.
it's so tiny.
He's
Oh
this
my God.
tall. And he's like,
Yeah.
It's so tiny. It makes you look like a giant, Mai.
Yeah, that's true.
No, that's adorable.
So I can't believe I've wrapped it. That's crazy.
Dude, good job, man. Yeah, I still don't know how you thumbnail while talking to us, because they require. I don't know. I just have to.
Well, you have to keep in mind, like yesterday was a 4-hour session, and
Yeah.
I barely finished the page. So
Yeah.
it depends on the day.
Yeah, I guess so.
I also I don't know, but dude, I don't want to call it, but it is 1 a.m. So
Shoot. Time does fly. Time does fly.
dude, I this was a fun one. Chris, thank you for stopping in. Corey, thanks for stopping in too and hanging. Chris, everybody can find your work at chrisgow@ua.com, right?
Yeah, I think probably my Instagram's more fresh, just because, like I mentioned, I haven't updated my website in a while. But Sketchboy01, I guess, is the best. And like you mentioned before, thanks, the Kitten Rivet. We just ordered some new products, so we'll be stocking like stickers and stuff soon.
So cool.
Yeah, that one's still building, but it's fun.
I love it. And then you guys should also check out the Sunless Circus comics because they're really cool. And
Thanks.
those are
They're oldies, but they still. I reread one. They're like, it wasn't bad, like when you look at old work and like, this doesn't suck. So I'm like, that's as good as I. For something
I read
that old,
it
but,
recently, and it was good.
yeah. There's more ideas for that one too. Oh,
I
thanks.
think they're good.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks. But yeah, and then Corey, I need
Cool,
to check out your new animation stuff. I missed the last release.
Did you see episode 1 of Endo Exo?
I saw episode. That was
That's
cool. No, I dug that. I'm a big fan of really good sound design. I feel like there was a lot of care put into that. I feel like that creates an environment. You can feel the atmosphere so much more when it's like quality. So
Yeah.
in addition to the animation too.
A lot of me walking around my neighborhood recording sounds with my phone.
Yeah. That's so. I mean, that's really fun. I just think Foley is such a fun art form. That
It
adds.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, for that short film I did a whole I got a bunch of produce and I did all the Foley and everything, and it was cool.
Like punch produce and like.
Yeah, I was like breaking peppers, in half.
That's so cool. Yeah. Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah, there's actually a pretty good video on Corey's YouTube of him doing Foley and like squeezing like.
Oh, no way. Okay, I gotta check that out. I gotta find it.
Yeah, I think you could probably just search my name in Foley because I only did that one video, but
Yeah.
It'll either come up with Corey or Dave Foley from Kids in the Hall, and you'll be like,
Corey Foley.
I almost covered my keyboard in orange juice because I got so into squishing this half of an orange that it shot this stream like 4 feet across my studio, and it's like, ah, crap. I should have carped that or something.
This is right. You need like a space that's cordoned off and easy to clean later. Yeah.
There's something to be said for our field of work where, I was noticing, there's certain photo references that I've had to take in the past.
Yeah.
If somebody were to look at just my blind photo roll, they'd be like, "What the hell is wrong with this lunatic?" Because
your search history, right? It's gonna be like
yeah. But I mean, there'd be weird just pictures of me posing as a barbarian and
yeah.
That's
weird. My whole. What is it called? The photo booth app. It's mostly I need a reference and I'm making faces and just
you're
usually my right hand because I can't draw my own right hand, so I have to like left hands I can model anytime, but
Yeah.
kind of like, what does this look like? And then a lot of expressions. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Oh,
But yeah, so you kind of, I don't know, you got to love a career where it's like you have these weird camera rolls and potentially might be doing Foley and pouring orange juice on your keyboard. Like, it's just,
I love that one day we can be in there like, precision with a brush and you're getting like these intricate lines and everything.
Right.
And the next day you have like a meat tenderizer that you're smashing like a grapefruit with.
Yeah.
It's just like,
it's all part of the same job, that's
yeah, right. Yes.
Yeah, we should have like a guess what this person does based on their shopping list and search history.
I asked my friends one time, I said, what do you guys think I do for a living? Just based on, like, I haven't lived in my hometown for like 20 years or something. She's like, what do you guys think I do for a living? And their answers were hilarious. It's like, they were way off. It's like, okay, that's great. At one point in time, they're like, if I had to guess, I think it would have something to do with yogurt and ukuleles. I'm like, no, I just really like yogurt.
I love it.
It's like those memes are like, what people think I do, what my parents think I do,
Right.
what my job is actually like.
Those are the best. Dudes, well, I appreciate it, you guys coming on and hanging out and doing art with me, and hopefully we can do this again shortly.
Yeah, that was fun.
I'll probably be on tomorrow too, so whenever you guys want. Thanks to everybody who lurked or watched in the chats, and or is watching after the fact, and make sure you check out everybody's work. Also, we got to promote this, but it's like Corey and I are starting a review show where we're going to talk about different comics and graphic novels and animations and all sorts of things that have inspired us as artists, and kind of reviewing it and talking about the things that we pull from that work and put in our own work, or has inspired us to do our own work. And that's called Indie Review Show. And so keep your eyes peeled for that. Our first episode should be Monday.
Yep.
And then other than that, like, I appreciate it. It's super fun talking to you, Chris. It's fun to do a late night. It's like back in the day when we used to do late night sessions working. And so
just like old times. Just like old times.
I know. I love it.
Yeah,
so I'm kind of hoping we can keep that going, and hopefully inspire others too to just kind of like get their projects done. Yeah, cool. I guess that's it. Oh, I always have to mention this too. If you haven't yet ordered 2 stories on Amazon, I was going to say on Instagram because it's 1 a.m. And yeah, I don't know. It's been really fun. So we will see you guys next time.
All right. See you later.